most people own their stuff outright. Like on paper, Mexicans are kind of richer than Americans because they have no debt. And
Wow.
because of that, they didn't have to sell their properties at lower prices. They just waited 3 years. And, by 2011, the market was back and it never took a dip.
Welcome to the Cash Flow Chronicles. I'm your host, Jonny Catani, and the founder of Catani Capital Group. For the last 2 years, I've been studying alternative assets and now help solve the problem of creating passive cash flow for creators, influencers, and busy professionals by bringing you 5 episodes a week of easy to understand education in the world of passive investing. What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Investor Relations Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Jonny Catani, and we have a special treat today, mixing it up a little away from the straight real estate talk. We have Joshua Ketner on today. Josh is the founder and director at Dreambody Clinic. Dreambody Clinic is a medical clinic located in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, that specializes in mesenchymal stem cell therapies. Josh moved to Mexico in 2008 to pursue alternatives to the U.S. medical system. He founded Dreambody Clinic in 2012 with his wife, Venus Ketner, to offer a way for people around the world to obtain medical treatments that are overregulated in their home country. Dreambody Clinic started on this quest by offering human growth hormone and other hormone replacement therapies because Josh's father had Lou Gehrig's disease and was denied access to these medications in Seattle because of overregulation related to the Anabolic Steroid Act. Josh and Venus are able to develop a legal fly and buy program for patients to obtain these medications and others. Josh, welcome to the show.
Hello, how you doing?
Doing very well. Very excited to chat today. We kind of told the story here in the beginning, or how you got started, but kind of take us back there a little bit. What was kind of the catalyst for you to finally be like, all right, I'm finding a better solution here?
Yeah, it was just that when you see your dad that sick and there's no hope, there's no cure, nothing. You look into anything, like he had a big aerospace company, was basically a rocket scientist, like didn't get much smarter than him. And looking through it all, he found that with other muscle wasting diseases, like if you have HIV muscle wasting, things like that, they will throw human growth hormone and testosterone at you. They seem to want to save those people more for whatever reason. And with ALS, like Lou Gehrig's, they wouldn't even let him try it. Now, we weren't thinking, hey, this will cure you, whatnot, but it wasn't even an option. They did finally give him a dose, but it was like a lower dose than I even take just for staying healthy today. So it was pretty crazy. So that kind of led me down the road of looking, and I actually ended up, I guess, a little more real estate related. Was I read an article one day and it was like, man outsources parents to India. And I was like, what? Okay. And I got into caregiving and senior care at that point. And I was working at what's called a Place for Mom. They're a senior placement agency. I was one of the advisors there helping people on the West Coast, and read that article. And I'm like, man, that's a great idea. It's so overregulated. There's just, it drives costs up. It drives care down. It's not a good thing. But I was like, too far away. I wonder if Mexico would work. My parents always would take us to Mazatlan every year. And the more I looked into it, the more it seemed feasible. So I ended up moving to Puerto Vallarta to be here with one of my friends and work with him, who had a real estate company here, actually. So I looked into it. It seemed possible, had some big investment groups interested. Yeah, they backed out last minute. It's just financing in a foreign country is a lot more difficult than in the United States. I mean, it's a world of difference. So they ended up backing out last minute. I met a doctor doing something very similar to what we do with this fly and buy program. I jumped on that, built a website, started promoting, people started coming, and we've just grown it from there, just hiring more doctors and team members and nurses, and it's gone great.
That's awesome. I love it. So let's kind of get into, I guess, people hear about stem cells. They obviously, at least for me, I'm going to be honest, I'm pretty naive when it comes to it, just really what I've just read. So
totally.
You started HGH, then moved to stem cells. Sounds like still do the HGH. Kind of talk about, I guess, the differences, what the procedures are like, and then we can kind of get into, the benefits.
Yeah, so we started with growth hormone. We thought we'd have all these bodybuilders, things like that. No, it was almost everyone was over 40, just trying to look and feel better. And you denied access to this up in the States. Yet every celebrity and pro athlete you can think of takes this stuff, and not at even crazy doses. Like I've been on 2 IU a day, which is a very small dose, for about 9 years now. And I've got patients in their 70s that have been on it for decades that you'd swear they look like they're 50 and they move like they're 20. It's just incredible for long-term health. I don't think they really want people happy and healthy and thinking for themselves up there in the States. So
Definitely not.
they like to deny these things. And testosterone, you can get to an extent, but even that can be tough because, oh, it's steroids. And everybody has this big misconception there. But the VA just did the largest study in history, 83,000 participants, and found men on testosterone replacement therapy have better cardiovascular health than men that aren't. And let's be honest, your heart is probably what's going to get you in the end. That's the number one killer. People are afraid of everything else, but heart disease is number one. So we started with that. And then I had heard about stem cells. You hear rumors about them in Mexico. And since we had a medical clinic and some great doctors, we finally tracked it down with my wife's help. She's Mexican. And we made a partnership with the lab, built a relationship, invested in them, and grew it from there. That was over 6 years ago. And we've been helping people since. And it's not what people think. You know, people hear stem cells and I think their first thought goes to like aborted fetuses and, you know, all that kind of stuff. We do not do that. These are mesenchymal stem cells. The guy who named them, Dr. Arnold Kaplan, is a professor at Case Western University. He wishes he could rename them messenger signaling cells because there's different types of stem cells. These, once they're put into your body, aren't technically stem cells. They do not become anything else. They are like the managers on the construction site. They guide the healing. They basically let you heal like you did when you were a little kid. That's the easy way to look at them.
Okay. And then what's the other variation, or is it still around?
Yes. So the other options would be like embryonic stem cells, which if you remember when Bush Jr. was in office, that was the big controversy because he didn't allow it. So one side was like, oh, he's terrible, he's preventing medicine. And the other side's, hey, it's aborted babies, we shouldn't be doing that. Well, it turned out his advisors told him not to, not because of ethics, but because they didn't think it would work. And they turned out to be right. The state, they did not ban them. They just said the federal government will not fund this. The state of California still spent $2 billion researching it. Never worked. They always became tumors because they wanted to become babies. So the last $200 million of that $2 billion they had, they invested into mesenchymal stem cell research. And there's over 100,000 studies on mesenchymal stem cells. If you go to Google Scholar, it's very well researched, very safe. You can do it in the United States. They can't replicate the cells. And that's what we're able to do here in Mexico that you can't do in the United States. And it's a big difference. Like, I'm sure everybody's heard of like, they do fat derived or bone marrow stem cells in the US, and they'll do a knee or a back or an elbow. But it's a huge difference. With bone marrow, you're lucky if you get 10,000 mesenchymal stem cells. With fat derived, you're lucky if you get 100,000. And less than 1% of what they're injecting is actually mesenchymal stem cells. Like that guy, Dr. Kaplan, I mentioned, the man who named them, gets really mad about this. He goes, that is a cell therapy, not a stem cell therapy, because it's like Coca-Cola selling you an apple juice and it says all natural, but then you realize 99% of those natural ingredients are sugar and water, and you're getting 1% apple juice. It's the same exact thing. It's clever marketing. It's not truth.
Interesting. God, that's fascinating. Just speaks volumes to the freaking propaganda we get fed here.
Yes.
You do a whole podcast just on that. Cool. All right. So I'm very intrigued. So I guess now talk about the mesenchymal and what is this process like? What are they doing inside the body? What's happening?
For sure. They're very simple. You already have them in your body. So we should probably start with that. They're called pericytes. They live on your capillaries in your body. And you think of it like, say my arm's like the tube, the capillary. They look like little octopuses wrapped around, and they squeeze and release and control your blood pressure normally. Well, when you get injured, so let's say like my elbow hurt, some from this area will come off the capillary, go there. And if it's injured, they're attracted to inflammation and they'll guide the healing process. So when we were little kids, this is why we all healed so fast and easy, because we had so many more. Once you hit bone maturity, usually around age 18 for women, 21 for men, you lose 90% of your capillaries. You're not growing taller. You don't need all that extra blood flow. Well, you lose 90% of your mesenchymal stem cells. Some people call them mesenchymal. You can go either way. But when that happens, now as you age, it's lower and lower because some come off and they don't find a capillary to call home again. So what we do is a couple of different things. The main thing we treat are knees. That's our most common treatment. Everybody ends up with knee pain. So like I did my knee, I was patient number one. I've done every treatment. Will not offer something I haven't done myself. I had multiple meniscus tears, partially torn ACL. Well, we injected them after doing an MRI. 9 months later, we checked the MRI. I have a new knee. It's on the website. You can see it. So we are seeing cartilage, regenerate. We're seeing ligaments, tendons, bone injuries, muscle injuries, all these things. So we do joints a lot, but then we also do autoimmune diseases. Like we have patients that had MS that no longer have brain or spinal cord lesions. And really on paper, you would say they're cured. We don't like to say cured. It's never appropriate, but on paper, there's nothing wrong with them now. And we're doing a lot of that because what's happening is your immune system isn't working right with an autoimmune disease. It's attacking your body where it should be protecting it. So the stem cells interact and it's like uploading new software. So it starts working the right way and it starts protecting instead of attacking. It's that simple.
And are these specific to are you extracting something to make these, or what's that process like?
Great question. So yes, we take them from placenta and umbilical cord tissue from live healthy births, nothing controversial. This is tissue that would get thrown away otherwise. The baby's totally fine, grows up to be happy and healthy. And the reason we do that, you could take it from any tissue that has capillaries. Like we could do a biopsy of my muscle, take it, isolate the stem cells. We could inject that in you, no problem. And the reason why is they lack what's called HLA, human leukocyte antigen. That's what would tell your body to reject a foreign tissue. So since they lack that, your immune system doesn't respond. It's called graft versus host disease. When that happens, they actually use these to help people with graft versus host disease. So there's no risk, anything there. And we use the placenta and umbilical cord tissue because it's the youngest tissue and the cells replicate the fastest. We'd done it with a 35-year-old from their own fat, and it took 4 weeks to culture up 10 million cells. And when we culture, that's doubling. So 2, 4, 16, it's exponential. When we do it from placenta, we can culture up, tens of millions or billions of cells in a single process. So it's really simple to do. So that's why we use so many cells. It's a huge, huge difference. And we only need one umbilical cord and placenta about every 5 or 6 months because we get so many cells. It's not like we're taking this from tons of people, anything like that. We have to get the freshest, best tissue. It's a very, very strict process. We provide analysis from a third-party lab. I'm American. I know what Americans are expecting. They're afraid of Mexico. I understand that. I had the same misconceptions before I moved here 14 years ago, but I can promise you the medical system here is far superior. If you work with the right people, you're going to get far better care. And my job is to make sure that we are above and beyond the standards you're even used to in the United States.
Wow, that's fascinating. Okay. All right. So let's say, someone finds out about you, obviously have this flying by program. What does this entail? What does it look like to come down there in that whole process?
Yeah, so flying by and stem cells, both a bit different. Flying by is quick. You fly in, the next day we do blood work. We get results the same day. Imagine that. And then we consult. We're really just making sure there's nothing major wrong. We prescribe the medicine, give you all the paperwork to fly home. I flew back from Vegas on Sunday where I'd taken a year's supply to my brother of growth hormone and some testosterone because he needed it and he didn't have time to come down. We've done half so he's a firefighter there. I think we've treated half those guys anywhere in the US. I mean, I'm from Seattle. I've done it there. It's perfectly legal. It's perfectly right. No issues with it. So it's real simple. And we treat adults mostly, but we also treat kids. We got a lot of these kids that are at these schools, over in Atlanta and Florida, that they're future pro athletes that maybe aren't growing tall enough or need a little extra muscle definition. I mean, these are normal things. My daughter is 17 right now. When she was 14, I put her on because she's pretty short. And my wife's Mexican, pretty short. And she's like, hey, I wish I'd had the option. I mean, I'm 6'2", so I was like, oh, well, I guess I like being tall. Why not? So she did it. And yeah, she grew like 3 inches in the course of a year and a half. So
Wow.
and the problem in the US is you only qualified if you're like legally at like dwarf or midget levels. And there's a lot of kids out there that you can grow, like I said, with the bone maturity until women, it's like 18, men 21. So, some people, they wish they could be a little taller. You actually can if you do it when you're a kid. So we get quite a few of those people too.
And so what are any potential side effects and I guess, and also misconceptions, right? I'm sure this kind of can get a bad rap. You're talking about giving kids this kind of stuff. So talk about some of that.
Yeah. So you need like parent consent, all of that. People are afraid of cancer, and it's a pretty big misconception. It will increase IGF-1 levels, but there are certain tubers that can feed off of IGF. But the thing is, you have to have cancer, know it, and still actively take it. And even then, the studies nobody's been unethical enough to give a cancer patient tons of growth hormone. A good example is I finally got my mom on it. She loves tennis. It's her life. And she finally gets on it, and she stops, like she came and got prescribed everything. She didn't tell me she had a little mark on her nose and her shoulder that she had gone to the dermatologist for. Well, when she went back, they found out it was cancer, just, a little bit of skin cancer. So she's like, what do I do? I'm like, stop taking the growth hormone. It's only in your system like 12 hours. It's not like, it's going to kill you because you took it. So she stopped taking it. They removed the cancer real easy. She's totally fine today. She doesn't take the growth hormone now, but that was, again, you have to know you had it. But other than that, it is one of the most risk-free things. Like, I've had some of the top military doctors in the United States come to me for this stuff. I have tons of US doctors that come to me just because, even though they could prescribe it to themselves, the cost difference is humongous. Like,
I'm sure.
Yeah. So it's one of those things, they jack the price up because they know insurance will pay for it in the States. So like one of these pens, here, I'll show you. No, somebody took it. I'm sorry. I had one here, but it costs like $2,000 for one that lasts just under a month, where with us, it's like a little, $350 or something like that. It's massive difference in price.
Holy cow. That's crazy. Okay. So the flying by is the HGH, human growth. So I guess talk about the process then for stem cells. Got to come down. Is there consultation? What does that all look like?
So we always start with like free phone consultations. People call in, we figure out what's going on. If it's a joint, it's awesome if you already have an MRI. Most people in the States, though, only have an X-ray. These surgeons up there are just notorious for, oh yeah, do an X-ray. You're bone on bone. You need a new knee. You need a new hip. You need a new shoulder. You cannot see soft tissue with an X-ray. It's a total guess. And it's gotten so corrupt where these guys will literally, patients, I've had hundreds of patients tell me they asked for an MRI, and the surgeon will be like, sign off on the surgery and I'll order that MRI. Because yeah, it's extortion. Jeez. It's insane to me that you can't just go to a clinic and order an MRI. I mean, it's your health. You think you'd be able, even blood work can be like pulling teeth to get in the United States in most places. It's crazy. So we always start with that. If you don't have it, we do it here. Like all of our joint treatments include an MRI because patient safety is number one. Like only one time have we ever found like a tumor in a knee out of one patient out of thousands. And yeah, we didn't do treatment, not even because we think this would make it worse. Mesenchymal stem cells, I know an American doctor who specializes in cancer that's injected these into tumors and they've shrunk. It doesn't, but follow-up treatments, it reduced it by like 80%, but the follow-up treatments didn't do any more. So he doesn't do it, but even he has had to move to Mexico to use FDA approved medications to cure cancer.
That's crazy.
Yeah. If you check out williamscancerinstitute.com, he's an American radiologist that's literally curing cancer down here with a rare type of medicine that it's approved for a rare type of cancer. It's just insane. Sorry, I get kind of sidetracked.
No, I love it.
Here.
I love it. I can tell you're passionate. That's what we're here for.
So yeah, then with the stem cells, so then yeah, it's either a 4 or 5 day trip, depending on what treatment. Like an IV's 4 days, you fly in, we do blood work, we do treatment day 3, fly home day 4. I mean, we're in, I should have done a video from the other room. I mean, we're overlooking the canals that all the yachts are in. In front of us is the Hard Rock Hotel, beachfront, all-inclusive resort. There's like 40 beachfront resorts within a mile of our clinic. We're in the process right now of building the largest stem cell clinic in the world. That'll be done in about 2 months. So I think I told you before, if you want to know about Mexican real estate, I've got that down pretty well too. I've been through it all, building and buying and selling. So yeah, it's a lot of stuff.
So if I wanted like my knee treated, is that a direct injection into the knee, or is that can go in an IV?
Yes, that the IV doesn't work because you don't, like tissue, like cartilage, ligaments, tendons, they barely get any blood flow. And when you do an IV, it first goes to your heart. We have taken so many patients out of congestive heart failure. We have patients that had heart attacks, that had necrotic tissue that we've regenerated. I mean, the heart health aspects of stem cells are probably the most important. It's unreal.
Wow.
So they go heart, then lungs, then only about 20 to 30% get past the lungs. They kind of act like a filter. They don't get wasted, but they just kind of stay there. They interact with other cells passing by. So you don't get enough to a knee or a shoulder to heal it with an IV. You want to go direct because with the IV, you're kind of working from the inside out, the bloodstream, then they have to cross through, get there. It's tougher. When we do a knee, we go to that hollow cavity behind the kneecap, and then they seek out the inflammation and they start healing those tissues. And like meniscus, it doesn't get any blood flow. So because it's a softer tissue, it heals so well. And everybody's meniscus wears out over time. It's pretty awesome.
Wow, that's incredible. Gosh, it's yeah, I mean, listen, I'm happy that I was born in America, but really learning stuff like this, traveling the world, you really start to see the shortcomings that America has to offer.
Yeah. And it's just greed. It really comes, I mean, this should be standard of care in the United States. Even PRP, like we do that with a lot of our treatments. That's just spinning your blood and re-injecting the plasma. Like if you do that immediately after getting injured, there is a very high likelihood you will be pain-free and it will heal so much faster. But the problem is you wait even a couple weeks, the white blood cells rush to the area. They can only heal with scar tissue, fibrosis. And that's what blocks the healing. And then that's when you need something like a mesenchymal stem cell to get in there and remove that damage, because nothing else will get rid of it. You can do all the things you want, but that scar tissue isn't going to go. And the thing is, Big Pharma, I really don't think wants this, because they could fund it, they could get it pushed through, but they want you as a subscription service. They want you on pills every month. And the problem with the system with the FDA is, I was in a conference at Freedom Fest the other day, and me and this other guy, he has a genetic medicine company. We're like, they almost need another category. So look, you have a category for regular medicines, but you need a category for, peptides and hormones and things your body, and mesenchymal stem cells, things your body naturally produces should be regulated different, because right now nobody's going to spend the money. It's $2.5 million just to file a new medicine application, which you might not get approved. Jeez. And I know it's because of a lab that does what we do in Idaho just got shut down because of this. $2.5 million just for that. They had to shut down because they didn't have that money for that. Then you have to go through all 4 phase trials of the FDA. You could spend hundreds of millions of dollars before you even get it through. And it's only going to be approved for like one type of treatment. You're then going to have to go through this process for others. And it's so stupid, and nobody can patent it because it's natural. So who's going to throw that money at it if they're not going to get their money back? It's basic economics.
That's insane. Wow. Well, I'm sold. I was sold before we even started this conversation. It's definitely something that's piqued my interest over the years, especially after I turned 30 and you just randomly wake up. I don't know what it is, man. Everybody told me. I was like, yeah. And sure enough, It's so real. You just
It's so real. Yeah.
wake up and just something hurts for no reason other than apparently you're old. Still feel young, but yeah. Okay. So you did mention that you know a little about real estate down there. There's some misconceptions about real estate in Mexico. Kind of talk about that
Big
and the
time.
opportunities that we have.
Yeah, so I've invested in a lot of properties here. The market's gone crazy. I just sold a few of my properties recently because the market doubled. Just I had one property tripled, two others that doubled that I sold recently because I think we're getting pretty close to a bit of the bubble popping here. Probably, I'm guessing October or so. But yeah, so I sold those, and you can own here. Like, I am in the process of getting my citizenship. I've qualified for the longest time. I just finally took the test and did it all. It takes about 5 years to get citizenship here.
Wow.
And you get dual, so you can be both. But as a foreigner, you cannot own within 50 kilometers of a major body of water. Well, I'm in Puerto Vallarta. We are on the ocean. The whole town is. But what you can do is what's called a fideicomiso, which is like a 50-year lease. Costs like $500. You hold it in trust at whatever bank you want, just like a mortgage. So I always held mine at HSBC because I'm pretty sure they have more money than the Mexican government. And so never an issue. And then when you like either die or if you want to pass it on or renew it in 50 years, it's $500 to renew, or you can put it in your will to your kids and they take it over. So you own it. They keep talking about getting rid of it because it's so stupid, but the government likes that money, so I don't think they'll get rid of it. But you do own it, and yeah, you can definitely buy here. It isn't financing is really tough. They only do 15-year fixed mortgages, and you're talking like 9 to 11% interest.
Oh, wow.
But there's no prepayment penalties. So if you can pay more, obviously you pay way less in the long term, but you're not going to get like a 30-year fixed here at like 5%. It just does not exist. So most people own cash. So when I moved here was 2008 and the market was dead, but the market never dipped here. There were no deals. Like, it's actually a very secure place to invest because most people own their stuff outright. Like, on paper, Mexicans are kind of richer than Americans because they have no debt. And because of that, they didn't have to sell their properties at lower prices. They just waited 3 years. And, by 2011, the market was back and it never took a dip. So, and yeah, property tax is like less than 1%.
Holy cow.
You pay a couple $100 a year on property tax. So you actually own your property.
Gosh, that'd be
you
nice.
don't own your property in the United States anymore. Let's be honest. Like,
yeah,
you're paying rent to the government. So
that's crazy. So it has to be a Mexican bank that holds the trust.
Yes, it has to be a Mexican bank, but they've got all the major banks here, like Banamex is Citibank, HSBC's here. It's, pretty much the same. And then, and it's a great place to buy. Like, people buy these timeshares and it blows my mind because I'm like, you could go spend 50, 100 grand for maybe not beachfront, obviously, but you get like a 2-bedroom condo within 10 minutes of the beach and you can Airbnb it when you're not there, easily pay the mortgage, and you got a cool place to go when you want to go. So it's actually a pretty good place. You're not going to cash flow it the way you would in the US because the longer, 30-year fixed and all that. But if you just want a property that pays for itself and have a little place in paradise anywhere in Mexico, you can get pretty cheap condos, and the Airbnb is huge here. So, yeah.
Wow. That's wild. And I guess there's probably even workarounds. So you could be right on the water if you wanted, like, partnership opportunities or something, I'm sure.
Yeah. Like, I have a condo on the beach in front of the clinic, and there were only a couple. They did outright sales, but most of them are like, 4 families own a fraction of it. And there's a lot of programs like that too. So there's always ways.
Fascinating. I love it. Yeah. Speaks to the power down there. I know a lot of people go down there just to get their medicine because a lot of things are over the counter and far more affordable. Like even something like asthma medication, totally. Even stuff like Z-Packs, like all that kind of stuff.
And it is safe. I just
Yeah,
want to make that. It's the most common question. Like,
for sure.
don't go to Juarez. Juarez probably isn't safe, but like once you get Monterrey or south, like it's not the country you see on the news. First, these narco guys, like they only kill each other. They have no interest in just hurting random people like the news tries to make it sound. Like any city in the United States is a million times more dangerous than anywhere I've been in Mexico. I have driven across the country to Cancun and back, to Acapulco and back. I've never seen a violent crime. There's hardly any homeless people here. It's not what you think. There's no drug dealers because the narcos control that. They do not let people drug deal. So nobody's strung out on any drugs. I'm from Seattle. It looks like the zombie apocalypse out there.
Yeah, that place is.
I mean, you're in Salt Lake. I mean, I have seen more crazy stuff downtown Salt Lake City than just about anywhere. Vegas. I mean, I don't know, not to trash anywhere up there, but I am way more afraid to go to the United States than I am any town in Mexico other than Juarez. So,
Wow, that's crazy. Good to know as well. I mean, it's probably good, want those misconceptions to stay. Don't want to get too flooded down there. So
yeah, it's kind of, we want you to think it's dangerous. But
that's right.
No,
yeah, actually, Mexico sucks. Don't come. Unless you need medicine, then I can help you.
Yeah.
I love it. Cool. Well, as we wind down here, we'll jump to the final five. I got 5 questions asked all my guests at the end. First question, best advice you've gotten from a mentor?
Ooh, okay. I had this guy used to be a big time guy at Scotiabank that lived here. He was like 95. He grabs me by the shoulder one day and he's like, don't ever retire. he's like, don't ever stop working, basically. And I was like, that's good advice. He was 95 and the guy was still cutting deals. And I swear he finally got dementia because no one would do a deal with him anymore. But it was incredible to see this guy go.
Yeah, I certainly want to set myself up for financial independence and financial retirement, quote unquote. But I don't think I can ever stop having something,
Totally.
It just feels weird. I took time off and eventually you're just like, all right, I'm bored.
Yeah, you run out of stuff to do.
Totally. What is it about your career that makes you feel like you're fulfilling your why?
Just getting to help people. I mean, that was my why after seeing what happened to my dad. And, we just pride ourselves. I mean, we get bring a tear to your eye. Some of these people you see, we had this lady the other day with a crazy reaction to an antibiotic, like couldn't open her eyes, just destroyed her central nervous system. And the stem cells work unreal for central nervous system and nerves, like nerve pain. Like I'm going to post a video. She's going to hopefully come in today and do a follow-up video, but like her eyes are open. She's talking, like it's just, some of these transformations are like unreal, truly.
And are you seeing these, and maybe not something at this degree, but like, let's say a knee, like how quickly are people feeling results? Like next day?
Yeah, great. 3 months is usually, it's strange. It goes back and forth. It hurts. It feels good. The cells are going and healing. Then they take a break because they lower the inflammation. Then it comes back. And it almost feels like overnight. It's like it'll be 3 months after, and all of a sudden it just never hurts again. And it's funnier to do the follow-up calls at 3 months because so many people at 3 to 6 months, the majority at 3 months, some take 6, and you call them like 3 or 4 months after, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it doesn't hurt anymore." My
Just
mom
totally
put
forgot.
it this. Yeah. It's my mom put it best. She goes, "Pain has no memory. When it hurts, it's all you can think about. When it stops hurting, you totally forget." It's pretty crazy.
That's fascinating. Wow. All right. So question is favorite non-real estate or investment related book?
The favorite, which? Ooh.
Favorite non-real estate or investment related book. So like self-help books,
Yeah.
business books.
Yeah. Oh man, I got so many good ones. So I'll give you the one that really got me going though. When my dad passed, he didn't leave me. He had an aerospace company, all this money stuff. I got nothing. I got a box of books, and it was actually Tony Robbins' The Awaken the Giant Within. I think was the first one where it's just so many good just philosophies and techniques for just kind of controlling yourself and getting your mind right. That was a good one. And then the newest one would be called The Molecule of More. It's all about dopamine. And man, if you want to understand how every person in the world works, that book will blow your mind.
Definitely putting that one on the list. That sounds very fascinating. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Oh man, who doesn't want to fly? I go flying. That'd be
You
fun.
got to. Yeah, you got to do flying. I love it. Cool. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you and learn more?
They can just go to our website. It's www.dreambody.clinic. That's everything's there. You call up. It's just a couple of us take calls, free consultations. We're super busy right now. The phones have been flooded, but if you call and you don't get us right away, we will get back to you. That's where we're at.
Sweet. I will. We'll link that website in the show notes. Make it super easy. Josh, this has been amazing. Thanks for all this insight.
Thank you, Jonny. Awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you again for tuning in. Who do you know that wants more cash flow? Share this episode with them so you can grow your cash flow together. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you're subscribed on your platform of choice so you never miss a new episode. Go to KataniCapitalGroup.com to learn more.